Okay, wonderful. So, we are just going to talk through how to make the church PowerPoints and make sure that everything's looking good and it's all kind of the same across who's doing it. So, I just created the church PowerPoint for this week and I was like just about done with it. I was like, I should have recorded that. So, we're just going to talk through it. And if you have other questions, you can reach out and let me know what you need. So, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to jump right in. Okay, cool. So every time that you are putting together a PowerPoint, you are going to get an order of worship that looks just like this. You have what's happening, in what order, and who's doing it. Now, some order of worships are more finished than others, and depending on when you get them in the week, there might be blank spaces with people who you don't know who's doing what and that kind of stuff. That's fine. It's all going to come together. Don't worry about it. It's all going to happen. But your goal is just to put together everything that is on the order of worship and connect with the presider about what still needs to be entered if it's important. If it's not important, it can happen the day of, or it might just not happen at all, and that's okay too. So, when we start, the first thing that I do is I go into PowerPoint and I pull up a blank PowerPoint and I pull up whatever one I've done most recently. And I copy and paste all of the slides that I've just done, and I put them into my new PowerPoint. And the reason that I do that is because our congregation, and really a lot of the Community of Christ congregations, follow the order of worship that is put together by the World Church in the Herald House Worship Helps, which is great. That system typically has an order to it that is really pretty consistent. And so a lot of the time when you're putting together this PowerPoint, you're going to see that those slides are already in the right place. Like I just have to change the name and stuff like that. So it's just going to make your life a whole lot easier, not having to think about constantly reformatting and changing font and changing size and all of that. Just copy and paste it all, and then we're going to enter everything in later. So let's start from the beginning. The first thing that you want to go, the first thing you want is to make sure that you have our inclusive congregation slide. That includes the streaming license. We're going to make sure that we have the title slide that has the correct date, the correct theme, and all of the correct main people, our presiders, our speaker, our piano player, and the person doing the sound system. All of that information can be found in the worship drive. The worship drive, Deb Crowley, so beautifully put together, and it has all sorts of really important information in it. The main stuff that you want is the CCS copyright license document open. You want the worship schedule for this quarter if the presider did not put all of this information in the order of worship, which in this case they did not. So I need to pull, I need to pull that up. And so we can scroll on down to May 11th. We have our theme, Hunger and Thirst No More. Jen Dorfler is presiding, Reagan Mann is speaking, SJ is playing, Lane is doing the sound system, and Reagan is doing the PowerPoint. Fantastic. So all of that information is here. That all looks good. The other thing I'm going to do right now before I forget is I'm going to change the title. So instead of it just saying like presentation 1 or whatever, I want the date, including the year, and the theme, so that when I send that to the church computer, it has everything there and it's ready to go. So once that information is complete, I no longer need that page. And then the only other thing that I'm going to want is this document and either the hymn PowerPoint folder or the hymn words folder. And we're going to talk about that in just another second. So the way that I do it, obviously you can do it however it makes sense best to you, but this is how I do it. I go down the line and I change the names for all of the stuff that's already in place. So sharing and announcements, welcome, invocation, Oh, this is a good one to think about. When it says stuff like response and prelude and postlude, I don't typically make slides for those because there's usually something else going on that it makes more sense to have a slide for. So in this case, rather than having a response slide, I'm either going to have the sound person stay on welcome and invocation or just switch to prayer for peace so that Dan then has time to come up. He knows that he's giving his prayer, so he's just going to walk right up then. So I don't typically have slides for those. But what I do is I just go down the line, I enter in um, all of the names, all of the information here. You can kind of decide what you want to do language wise. Like sometimes people will have ampersands instead of ands, or they'll write out announcements, joys, and concerns. Um, they might not write out the language that they want with baptisms, or they might not give you all the information that you need for a hymn, like that kind of stuff. It happens and it's fine. So you just kind of have to be a little bit creative about how you put together language and all of that. That's why I like copying and pasting my previous PowerPoint so that I have something to reference off of. I have all of that information of how do I normally do this? Okay, this is what we're doing, rather than having to remember and making sure I'm doing it correctly. So all right, so let's see. All right, we get down here and we get to our first hymn, The Old Path. Fantastic. Typically, this is what the presider will give you, is the title and the Community of Christ Sings number. And what I usually do is I go through the PowerPoint in 2 rounds. Round 1 is just all of these title slides. So like Welcome and Invocation, Jen. Prayer for Peace, Dan. The Old Path, CCS 244. And then I skip the lyrics and the licensing and I come back to it in round 2. So that's what I'm going to do for right now. Then when we have special things going on, typically this is like communion. I might have a slide like this that says serving or blessing and serving of the bread and juice. In this case, it says the baptisms of Kyla and Kathy by Bishop Dale Ward. Fantastic. That's delightful. So yeah, sometimes our format changes a little bit there, and that's great. Then we have another hymn. Again, I'm just right now writing in title and number, and we're going to come back and do everything else later. We have our children's focus, our DGR. It's important to have this picture in here on the DGR so that they can scan the QR code or do any of that good stuff, as well as people who are watching the service remotely can also contribute if they want to. And we continue on. We have our next hymn. We have our message. Now, this is another important thing you're going to want to keep in mind. Again, language-wise, you can kind of do whatever you want. You can say sermon, you can say message, or you can say whatever the presider gives you, like in this case, spoken word. You also want to touch base with the person who is giving the sermon, because sometimes they will have slides. And I guess I should say, too, people who are doing the DGR, the children's focus, sometimes the announcements, they also are going to have stuff that they want in the PowerPoint. And if that is the case, you want to send the PowerPoint to them in its final check. But in this case, I am the speaker. I know I don't have a slide, so we're good. And we keep on going. Deb Crowley, we have our confirmations, scripture reading. Sometimes okay, let me say this. For stuff like scripture readings or prayers, when the order of worship provides something written out, this is usually my rule. If it is a short scripture, I will not write it out because it's probably going to happen before the person switches to the text slide. If it is a long scripture, I will write it out. And prayers, I do not write out. That's the way that I do it. You can do whatever you want, but that's the way that I do it. So this one, it's literally 2 verses. So I'm not gonna bother. And then we have our final hymn, we have our benediction, and then same thing here. Rather than having a postlude slide, I actually have a sending forth slide that just says, thank you for worshiping with us, go in peace. And I think that that's a nice way to send them off. And here too, like who's doing the benediction? We don't know. That's fine. Just write benediction. If you figure it out before the service starts on Sunday, you can run up to the booth and they can fix that. Otherwise, It's okay. It's not the end of the world. So once you have all of your titles and big stuff in there, then it's time to go back and do the hymns. So what I typically do is I jump back over to our worship drive and I go through, usually first I'll go through the hymn PowerPoints folder. So in the hymn PowerPoints folder, here we go, it has the individual lyrics in PowerPoint form already. So you do not have to continuously fix the formatting and the resizing the font and putting it in the font that you want. Oh, I should talk about fonts. Okay, sidetracking the hymn for a second. Font wise, I like using Calibri. I either use normal Calibri, Calibri Light, or Calibri Bold. Those are usually my top 3. Sometimes we'll put Arial in there as well, like with licensing. I usually have it on Arial, but pretty much everything else is Calibri. And then this size stuff, I always have 60. The licensing, I always have at 18. And then this, I think I have at 18. Oh, I have it at 20. And I have an Aptos? Okay, sorry, we're fixing that. I don't like that. Don't put it in Aptos. But I do like 20. Okay, so just something readable. Same thing here. The goal is, 33 even is small. The goal is readable, right? There are people who are sitting in the back who might not be able to read it as well. What's really important is that they can see the hymn lyrics. So it's incredibly important that those are big enough that they take up as much space as possible without it feeling crowded. If you need to break apart stuff like this, the chorus versus the actual verse, that's fine. Put them on different slides. I try not to break up the actual chorus or the actual verse unless I absolutely have to. But I want it to be as readable as I can. So we go through, jumping back to the hymn. All right, we're going to go through and we're going to pull up all the slides. So we have 244. And the nice part about this is that it has all of the really popular ones. The unfortunate part is it doesn't have all the hymns. So I'll show you what it looks like if there isn't here, but I just did this and I know that they're all here. So like we're going to pull this up. And it has the licensing already in here. Oh, sorry. I totally just clicked on the wrong hymn. Whoops, my bad. Here we go. Okay, so it has the licensing information in here, and then it also has the verses. And how it's typically done is the verse is in normal font and the chorus is in italics. So that's how I do it as well. So all of that information is there, and I basically just copy and paste it, resize it, make sure that it all looks good. So I will do that for all of the hymns. In the event that there is a hymn that is not in this drive, the PowerPoint drive, then I will go into the hymn words. And this is what we get from Community of Christ. And so everything is there. And if you pull up one of these, it will have all of the lyrics, but it will not have it in the font that you want, in the size that you want. So you will have to resize it and put it in the correct font and everything. It also has this, which is the publishing credits that you want to put here. What it does not have as well is the actual license number saying that we can use this. So, okay, for example, let's say I wanted to put El Amor Nunca Pasará in this PowerPoint. I would copy and paste that information right here. And then I would come over to this spreadsheet that has our one license and CCLI information. I would come over to the hymn. It says, okay, it's public domain and we need OL. So that's great. So we're going to come over to our one license and grab this number, the A722305. If it was CCLI, I would grab this number and I would just add that as well. So that's my license information. Okay, so then we would finish off with all the other hymns, and that would pretty much be all of the text. Once I have all of that done, I need to add a PowerPoint. Now, you can put as much thought into this as you want. I like to include a background, a background. I like to have a background that ties into the theme to some extent. So, our theme this morning is hunger and thirst no more. The scripture is from Revelation. When I think hunger and thirst no more, I think contentment in the Lord. When I think contentment in the Lord, I think Psalm 23. When I think Psalm 23, I think fields and shepherds and pastures. So I picked a background that has a little prairie with some beautiful flowers, and I thought it looked nice. Also, and this will be kind of dependent on probably what computer you're using when you put this all together. When you add your background, we have this like designer slide. My thing does not have a transparency slider, which is super annoying. So I'm just going to walk you through my shortcut. So when I have my picture selected, like I've gone to Google, I've picked the picture I want, I'm going to come over to Canva. And what I have is literally just like a document where I take the picture that I want and then I enter it in and I mess with the transparency slider. And then once I have my transparency slider the way I want it, I take a screenshot and I put it back in the PowerPoint. So it's not pretty, but it gets the job done. And that's great. So you got to double check everything is in here. Names are spelled correctly. Words are spelled correctly. Formatting looks good. You can read everything. And then you are going to go up to File, create a copy, download a copy. And then you are going to send it. And we have not done that yet. So let's do that together. There we go. So we are sending it to the presider, the speaker. That's me. And I already know what it looks like. So we're good on that. We're going to send it to Deb. We're going to send it to worship at NW. That's the church computer. And then anyone else that has slides in the PowerPoint. So that could be your speaker, that could be your DGR, that could be your children's focus, any of those types of people. But in this case, we don't have any of that. And then we shall do May 11th. Whoop, if I could spell, that'd be great. Y'all, here's our PowerPoint for tomorrow. Let me know if you want anything changed. And then I will attach the PowerPoint. Obviously, I'll make any changes that they respond with. Otherwise, I'll just assume that it's perfect and nothing else needs to be done. And then if there are any last minute things that they let you know about, but it's like midnight or whatever, that's fine. We can always fix it in the booth on Sunday morning. We just kind of play it by ear. We do what needs to be done and it's good. So let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty simple. It's really not too hard. So have a fantastic rest of your day.